This conference will now be recorded.
I am now recording, Ted.
Okay. Thank you.
You. All right. There's a few other changes within the 2022 budget. One of the changes is under professional fees. In 2022, early 2022, Tucker Hill has decided that it is a reserve study needs to be done to make sure that the association is properly funded with reserves. They are making a larger contribution in 2022 to the reserves, and they increased the reserve contributions. For 2020, the reserve contributions were approximately 33,000, and those have been increased to 75,000. Another increase in the 2022 budget is the landscaping. There was a 5% increase in landscaping maintenance. However, they're also increasing the improvements for 2022. That will include beginning the plant replacement for the winter freeze plants, and also some other improvements have been budgeted for that as well. There's an increase also in the sports courts and fields. There's a potential need for mulch for the playgrounds in 2022, and that has been added to the budget for the 2022 budget season. Mac or Ted, do you have anything else you want to add? Or Amy? Or
Just one thing, Shelley, and this is for the benefit of those who play the recording. Could you repeat what you said before the recording went live about the
absolutely
about that part, just so everybody sees it later? Thank you.
Yes. CMA, I don't know when I started recording, but at the beginning of the meeting, CMA had noted that the working capital contributions were not being collected properly. However, this has been caught, and CMA is reimbursing Tucker Hill for the contributions that were not collected properly under working capital. So that is noted in other income. And I think that's where I left off. Thank you. Amy, do you have anything you need to add? You're on mute.
I would just open it up for any questions that people have.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and open it up for any questions. If anyone has any questions, those will be addressed now.
So this is Mike Cole. Quick question is, I think a lot of people have is, we've never seen a copy of the actual budget to know what these dollar amounts are. We'd certainly like to see what the P&L statement looks like, so we can understand where the monies are going, and have a little bit better understanding about some of the disclosure of our finances.
Is that possible to get, per Mike's question?
Yeah, you're just asking for a financial statement?
That's correct.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Dustin, how could that be? Could that be posted on the website or?
Yeah, the budget summary will be posted on the website shortly after this meeting. If you'd like to see a larger view of the budget, not necessarily a summary, just reach out to Shelley, and Shelley's happy to provide that.
I think they're asking more for a financial statement, to show
like the balance sheet and income statement.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, just reach out to Shelley, and Shelley can help you out with that.
Can we post that on the website as well, Dustin?
Yeah.
Or
It's up to the board. Most okay. Associations will post perhaps an audit of the audited financials at the end of the year. Not a whole lot of communities put monthly financial statements out there, but ultimately it's up to the board of what to put out there.
Yeah, well, let's make a note to address that and have a plan for that. But definitely, I think people need to see where we are. I think that's a reasonable request, to see where we are, year to date at different points in time.
Thank you very much. I just want one last question is, you talked about the reimbursement of overages And in general, I'm sure this will be the balance sheet. How much will that be? How much of that amount is going to be reimbursed to the homeowners?
For 2022, and it goes, just to be clear, it goes to the HOA. So it's going to the HOA's income, but for 2022, it'll be just over $82,000.
There's a question in chat that says, can you elaborate on the working capital issue? Where does that money come from? That comes from closing. Are you talking about the reimbursement issue or what people pay at closing of the home? A working capital.
I was asking about the reimbursement you were referring to.
Okay. That money comes from CMA itself.
Yeah, that is so essentially when a homeowner purchases into Tucker Hill, that homeowner should be paying a working capital fee, and that goes to owner sales as well as builder to owner sales. And what we found earlier this year, that builder to owner sales working capital was being collected, but not owner to owner sales. And so that was a mistake of CMA. So over 2 years, starting in I guess September of this year, our CMA was reimbursing the association for that lost revenue. We're making the association whole for the amount that should have been collected on those sales. And so in 2022, it'll be $82,061.76. But over the full 2 years, it is going to be, let me pull up that number here, about just over 164,000.
Just for instance, if we had not had that reimbursement this year, our dues would have probably needed to go up about $50 to cover that shortage and keep this same budget. So there won't be a refund to the homeowners individually. It will just reduce the amount of dues that we'll have to pay going forward. Until it's all collected.
How many?
Hey, Mac, this is Tom Bauer. So were our dues increased in the previous 2 years because this revenue is not being collected?
Yes, you could say that. Yeah, sure, because that's an income stream that we didn't have, or it was lower than it should have been because some were left out. Therefore, we made it up.
So why would we?
Go ahead.
No, you got
No,
it back.
I was
Go
going to
ahead,
say,
Mac.
go ahead.
No, I was just going to follow up with that, Mac, and say it seems like if our dues were increased as a result of the funds not being collected correctly, why wouldn't we be entitled to that money's back?
Because that money was okay. If it hadn't been collected, if it had been collected from the homeowners rather than from the transfers, then and we put it in the bank or whatever, and the next year you didn't have to pay as much because we had assets to cover it. It's not that it's somewhere that you get back. It's just that it goes into the overall scheme of things. It goes into the HOA's assets, and then the next year you don't have to pay as much because you've gotten that income stream. It amounted to about $54 a year per homeowner. That it was, if you prorated it, and I'm sure nothing's prorated here. We might have 5 in 1 month, 10 in 1 month, and none for several months, but it amounts to about $50 a year. So let's just say if we kept this same budget and we did away with that, dues would go up $50 a year. But there's just no basis for refunding it. We would have to increase dues to refund it or do away with our reserves. Basically, it went into reserves. That's where part of it's going now.
And let me just say
So, wait a
something.
minute. So can I come back to you, because now I've got some questions. Is you only need to reserve, I took some notes here. For 2021, you increased the contingent reserves by 33,000. And for 2022, you're estimating 75,000 for estimated reserves. If I do some quick okie math on this, there's about $90,000, no, about $60,000 variance between the reserves increase and the amount coming back to the HOA. So, I can see this, the $100,000, but there's $60,000 is still kind of floating around that we, in my mind, we may have overpaid.
Yeah, I think that, it sounds like there needs to be a deeper dive into this and an explanation given to the homeowners that is in writing so that everybody sees exactly what transpired and what's happening with the funds. And yeah, just trying to answer it right now, Mac, it sounds like it's not something you guys were prepared to respond to. So I would ask that there be a written document that addresses this, because it is, somewhat of a serious issue. I think if you go 2 years and $160,000 is misallocated.
Yeah, we have this in writing. Dustin worked with our legal team and our accounting team, and it is in writing. And just to be clear, this is on the resales, and so it's really difficult to project. It's easier to project new home sales because what time of construction when they. Can everybody mute if you're not muted? Okay. And these were for resales. I mean, no excuses. I mean, we all should have caught this, but it's not. It's to me. I mean, that's kind of helps explain it. It didn't tie in. We have a plan in place now, Philip, where we can track this, but we could absolutely show the numbers.
Yeah, that'd be great if you don't mind him. Yeah, that'd be good to get that. And then, and I think it's about the homeowners' dues increasing over the past couple of years. And I think, as Max said, most likely those may not have been increased had this been allocated correctly. So we just need some clarity on it, I think, from that standpoint. Thank you.
Okay.
And a question I had was on the expenses. It was just a kind of a general comment that some of the expenses have changed. When we get the balance sheet and the budget, will that give us the details to be able to see what changes we're talking about as far as on the expense side that did change, either up or down?
Yeah, you should be
Yes.
able to get that, and it will show the changes as well.
And Shelley kind of went over some of that at the beginning, but we can, we can definitely provide comments for all of those or reasons for all of those.
There's a question.
There's a line item in there. So you guys lost a lot of plant material during the winter storms, and so the horticulture team, we have the director of horticulture in Nashville. He's deals with our communities nationally. He's working with local vendors and nurseries, and he's providing a landscape improvement plan. We won't go back in and replace every single thing exactly the way it was, because things change over time. This is an opportunity to reevaluate. Some areas the trees grow and there's more shade, and plants, you need different type of plants for that. So we're phasing in, but there is a $40,000 expense for this landscape improvement. So instead of doing let's make it 160,000 all at once. We're kind of phasing it in over the year. So that's one of the more significant increases in this budget, but we can outline that for you.
Frank had a question in the chat here. So he said, so this money was collected by CMA, but not reported or transferred to the HOA until now. And no, this money was not collected by CMA, and that was one of the issues here. So when you purchase into a home, when you purchase a home in Tucker Hill, when you purchased your home in Tucker Hill, if you purchased it from a prior homeowner, so not the original builder, but if you purchased your home from a prior homeowner, you should have paid working capital, and it's 1,400, or it's a number around that amount. We have the new homeowners pay that by issuing it on the resale certificate. So when you get your resale certificate at closing, that's one of the costs that you pay. We were not putting that on those resale certificates, and it was our error, CMA's error. So that money was never paid by those new homeowners. So that money was never collected. CMA is paying this out of our pocket. So it's not money that we've been keeping in and hoarding, and now we're giving it back to the HOA. Money was never collected, and CMA is paying that out of pocket to the HOA to make the HOA whole out of the amount you should have collected over that time, but did not. So it was never collected initially.
So this is Ted. I want to make a very short thing to try and allay a little bit of what Tom's fear is. So I'm a homeowner here also. I had the same kind of question, and I went through all the previous years, and all those years ran balanced budgets. You know, so if you're talking about what didn't come in my view, this is Ted speaking, you know, those would have been extra. Well, then it becomes a discussion of where would that have gone, and anyone would have put most of it, if not all of it, into the reserves, which have been nothing. I did go back through every year, and to me, the net effect that I really feel quite confident in saying is that if those years have been done normally, my belief strongly is that the 415 number would have come 1 year later. That's Ted's belief, and I've got a lot of I spent a lot of time trying to understand what you're referring to. And so one of the reasons I'm quite pleased with where we ended up was the correction for that would have hit 415 a year later. And it's not a lot in 1 year, like Max said, but that's a permanent adjustment. You know, the next year will build off of that number. So I went through what I think the question you're asking for a couple of weeks. And I ended up feeling pretty good that if we're flat, this is where we would have been next year, and we made a permanent setback to it. And that's it. I'll mute myself now. I was quite happy with where it ended up, but it's a complicated, kind of a hypothetical discussion of what would have happened those years. Thank you.
Okay, any more questions out there?
There's a comment here of who is managing the budget for the community activities and how is that allocated?
That is managed by the actual activities committee or social committee within your community. They're given a budget every year, and they're the ones who plan your events and turn in for reimbursements, and CMA will give them a balance every once in a while on what's left to spend, but you do have a social or activities committee that handles all that.
Well, that's good to know. I had wondered where that money was and how it was being allocated and if they were receiving it. Obviously, we are growing as a community, and it would be nice to know how much money they're receiving and if they're able to utilize it as much as they need for activities for everybody, all inclusively, for everybody in the community.
They do. You guys have a really great activities or social committee out there that works hard to, you know, provide and plan community events for the entire community. They normally post those in the newsletter, or they're on the calendar on the website as well.
Question that I have, as the community continues to grow, traffic continues to grow as well. And I know in a lot of cases where I live on Tremont down in phase 4. So just after you cross the creek. And so people are coming down the hill on Tremont, momentum takes them, and, they're going a good 35 miles an hour. It's supposed to be 15 right at the intersection, a house away from where my house is. How do we plan accordingly so that we can get some of this traffic slowed down? I know we got a lot of construction workers, but it's not just the construction workers, believe me. It's my neighbors that are speeding, my son-in-law, I've told him, you got to slow down. You got to get down to about 15 at this intersection, but it's very difficult, I think, for people to do because they're coming down the hill. What process do I need to go through? Is that a city issue and I need to go through the city for that, or is there something we can do as a community as well? And I'm thinking about a stop sign is what I was thinking at the bottom of Tremont there. That would bring everybody to a stop. Right now they're just flying down the hill and they got the momentum going. So.
Right. Your streets are public streets, so I would go through the city of McKinney and see. They could probably possibly do a traffic study to see, who's speeding or what's going on. But if you want a stop sign added or something like that, that would be the city of McKinney.
Okay. Have we gone through that before here at Tucker Hill?
I'm not aware of, since I've taken over as your manager, going through anything like that.
Yes, Tom.
Oh.
Tom, we've done it numerous times. Numerous neighbors have reported it to the city. And numerous times the city comes out, does a study, says there's no need for a stop sign.
So hey guys, just to interject, since this the purpose of this calls more for that's a great question, and it's actually an issue in every community I've ever worked with. But just in an effort to keep it kind of budget focused for this,
I know. Yeah.
We can follow up. You could shoot Shelley an email. We can follow back up with what some options are. But I mean, I'm telling you, Tom, I'm in Nashville and West Haven, same. That issue is everywhere, and it's important. And we can get back with you on how, some ideas. Mac may have some ideas.
Yeah, that's fine. I just thought,
really regulate traffic. So,
I appreciate it. I just thought, I had the audience that I would find out what the process was. So,
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Shelley, maybe on the process. And any more budget related questions? There is one in the chat. Is any part of the budget supplemented by SLC, or is it fully funded by homeowners now? It's fully funded by the homeowners currently. So the Southern Land did subsidize a pretty big chunk of money over the years. So I thought I had that printed out. I think it's over 700,000. So, but that subsidy has ended. Yes. Any more questions? And Laura, Laura Bull, I see your comment. No increase in dues this year. There is another question. When will the board be 100% made up of homeowners? At transition, once the association is 75% built out, or 100% built out, excuse me, it'll be transitioned over to the homeowners. So, or up to 10 years, whichever one comes first.
Are we getting the 10 years like any day now?
No. It's not the 10 years. The 10 years is the requirement to put one happy person on the board. The other number. Ted was the lucky guy. There was one predecessor, but at 10 years or some percentage of completion, the board has to have a resident member, but it's still 2-to-1. What the bylaws say, I'm pretty sure, is at 99% completion, it becomes members run. It's no lower than 99 because I keep walking around in my head with 3.5 houses left in my head.
Well, is there any ETA on when it's feasible that the neighborhood will be done. I mean, this has been going on since 2008. And there's not been, there's no development of another phase, and all the houses are built out in the North 40. It seems like at this point, if SLC is not funding the HOA anymore, that we should be looking at taking control.
So I know, just because of a brief conversation with Mac and Brian School a few days ago, I know that they're planning on sending out a communication in the near future with kind of an update on development. But yeah, there's no plan to turn the community over right now. So we'll follow what Southern Land plans. I mean, Southern Land has the option to at any time, but I think my understanding is that we'll follow whatever state laws are in the documents.
Yeah, it'd be great if y'all could send out a communication on where the development's going. It's been several months, I don't know, 6 months probably at this point, since we had that last discussion at the community center, and haven't seen any activity at all.
No, not much has changed since we met last. We continue to work on it at least once or twice a week. We have a meeting or a telephone conversation. We have the North Texas Municipal Water District. We're deciding where the location of their easement will be, and we're entering into what they will pay for it. So they don't get in a real big hurry. And we've tried to push it along, but it's not possible. You can't make them operate any faster than they want to. So we really don't know until we get that done. I mean, it's going to occur, but within a month or 2 or 3 or 4, I couldn't even begin to tell you.
So a question regarding the budget. So about a year or 2 ago, we uncovered, without being communicated to by SLC, that the portions of the land that were going to be the existing new phases of the neighborhood have been sold off. Obviously, there's probably some budgetary line items that go towards maintenance of those areas. Since those have been sold off, one would think that the budget would require less money to maintain those areas. Can you elaborate any on that?
Yes. SLC has been maintaining those 100% since day one, and still, well, not now. Actually, the buyer will maintain them, but the only thing that the homeowners association has ever maintained is what's been platted. If it's not platted, it's not being maintained by the homeowners association.
Okay, any other budget questions?
Yes. Oh, this is Bonnie.
Go ahead.
Someone had a question about what has been sold off. All the property from the soil conservation dam south on the west side of future Stonebridge has been sold.
Oh.
I say all of it. Maybe down, it's hard to, there's no landmarks over there for you to wrap your mind around there, but you know where the dam is. If you come south from the dam until the big lake kind of goes into a stream, that's about as far as they purchased. It's probably only 5 or 6 acres out of the water. Everything else is out under the lake that they bought or in the dam.
We have about 2 more minutes, so if anyone else has any questions.
Hi, this is Monty. Self?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We always talk about this has been brought up before too. I mean, that the flower situation, the flowers are always removed before they really die and they look bad. What is wrong with trying to look into the fact of putting native plants in there that don't require the water, don't require the change, and so forth?
Are you talking about putting in perennials where all the annual, instead of doing flower change
Yes,
out?
native perennials, yes.
I'll tell you this, there's a community in Nashville called Laurelbrook that turned the community over to the homeowners. And the first thing the board did was take out annual color in a third of the community and put in perennials. And fast forward about 8 years, they asked Tim to come back and fund putting flowers back in, because it changes the look of, I mean, you'll notice that if you don't do it. And I'm not saying there aren't some areas, I think that's part of the evaluation process for, you know, that I think Monty Polk is on the call now that they're going through. But I think that it's something they would absolutely notice. And it's what a lot of people love about Tucker Hill is the color. So Monty, I don't know if you want to answer any of that.
Okay.
The other Monty, sorry.
Which one?
Oh, I thought I saw Monty.
Are the hours that are being spent working on homeowners' private property by the SLC crews or Monty's crew, is that being credited back to us? And is there any way that we could see that?
This question comes up every year, so I don't know how to explain that differently, but they charge homeowners separately for that. That's not even if they weren't, it doesn't change. That's just an adjacent business. It's like if you're paying ABC Landscaping and they have, you know, other jobs they do, it's really irrelevant. I don't know how to explain that any differently, but there is separate accounting for things.
Okay, I understand that. That's all right.
Well, maybe
anything else?
A better question of that, and I've asked this before, is to actually get a work schedule of our internal landscaping crew. I've asked that question several times, just trying to get an understanding of days worked, hours per day, and I've never been able to get an answer to that. Is that something that can be provided?
I'll have to ask the horticulture department. I mean, we have, so what we get, what the annual contract is, it's broken down to how many mows per week, you know, the frequency of each service. So that's how we get the breakdown. So you're asking for like that, you're asking like how many guys are here mowing and which days of the week.
Well, I'm trying to get clarification on the overall budget, the 800,000+ we pay per year for the landscaping alone, and I've never been able to get a breakdown as to how many number of guys, days per week. And so I guess a good start based on what you just described, if you could share that with us, that would offer some clarity, you know, some initial clarity regarding my question.
And who is this talking? Is this Dave talking? I have a hard time
saying.
No,
this is Brett Haydell.
Okay, Brett. Okay.
Correct. Brett Haydell.
Tell me your last name again. I'm hearing a lot of background noise from Brett.
Haydell. Haydell. Haydel.
Okay. Landscaping breakdown. Okay. Okay, I'll request that information. See what's great this year.
Well, you said you have it, don't you?
I'm sorry.
Brett, if you can send me can you send me an email? I'll send that over to Amy. That way she has your contact information as well.
I'm still not getting.
Okay, I don't know who this is speaking.
This is Shelley, CMA.
Okay,
Shelley Hughes.
will do.
Yeah, just
Thank
send
you.
me an email and I'll get that over to Amy. That way she has your contact information. We can get
All right.
you.
Well, it sounded like Amy just described what she has available to her. So that should be pretty easy to send. Number of modes per week, etc.
Yeah, that would be mostly the contract. Are you asking for just that, or are you asking for when the guys are scheduled to mow?
Probably both. I mean,
Oh.
because I've never been able to get clarity regarding any of it.
Yeah,
And I think that would clarify Monty's question regarding, you know, the jobs that they're doing for the private residents in addition to the neighborhood.
Okay. So Brett, this is Amy Logan. Just if you could send an email to Shelley so we have your contact information and everything, and just kind of just ask your questions, and then we can respond to those.
Sorry, I was having some problems.
If you could send the contract to all the residents, that'd be appreciated. I think everyone has the same question.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's a common question.
Yeah, everyone thinks it's a little inflated. So we'd love to see the scope of work.
Don't get us wrong, it looks beautiful. It looks great, but it's a lot of money.
Yeah, and this comes up every year at the annual meeting. We can talk about it again at the annual meeting. That if those of you who were here may remember when it was all outsourced to a third party company, and you guys may want to do that when it's turned over to homeowners. But if any of you were here and saw what it looked like, I think you would appreciate that it's vastly.
Yeah, and we're not talking about re-outsourcing it. We're just talking about clarity of the expenditures that we're paying.
Yep, it's a fair question, absolutely.
And to piggyback on turning it over to the homeowners, I just wanted to clarify. I think it was clarified, but I just want to make sure that I understand. SLC has no current permits to build any more houses, correct?
Has no what to build any more houses? I'm sorry.
There's no plats or permits to build any more houses in this neighborhood. Is that correct?
There is no plat or permit that we could start tomorrow with. We're working on getting a plat and a permit to build more. We have about 258 lots left to build. And as soon as we can
on land that is still owned by Southern Land?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, everyone, we have no more time left. I don't want everybody to get cut off. If you have any further questions, just send me an email. I'll make sure to get those answered for you. But thank you guys all for joining us today. Amy, do you have anything you want to close with, or anyone else? Ted, Mac? All right, thank you so very much. Everyone have a good day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.